In the first ground war carried live on television, viewers are seeing the best live video and first-hand descriptions in wartime history. But there is still a fog of information. For instance, 40 hours after the attack on the Baghdad market, the Pentagon still says it could have been an Iraqi missile. Beyond that, the Pentagon is not allowing images of flag-draped coffins coming back to Dover Air Force Base, which critics say is a heavy-handed way of managing the message. The Pentagon also controls the timing of bad news. After Sunday's ambush near Nasiriyah, it took 4 days to identify the dead and missing. Why the delay?
Next of kin notification is incredibly important to us.
The U.S. says much of the confusion results from Iraqi deception. Soldiers dressed as civilians, militia units hiding in hospitals. But shouldn't the information be more accurate? After all, reporters are embedded with units, reporting in real time.
With one team up and then the other team up and it's all going to be over with, we have to realize that this is a long process.
You know what? We don't want this to be seen, all right? You need to stay back.
You don't have a choice.
Well, yeah, it is.
After explaining I had permission from the commander to be here, I was allowed to resume taking pictures. This man, I'm told, will likely die. His intestines ripped from his abdomen by shrapnel. American and British medics will try to save him. They say as if he were one of their own.
That's the one we see this sort of large office tower and a secondary explosion at the base. On that second attack, we're told that was carried out by B-2 stealth bombers flying in from the island of Diego Garcia. No indication what aircraft was used with the bunker buster. Finally, we're hoping to get a little more information today on the sort of shaping of the battlefield, and that is the effort to try to soften up the battlefield for those ground troops, which has been widely reported are looking forward to engaging with the Republican Guard. Lester?
David, thanks very much. You need only look at this picture of the day. It's the image of a British tank in southern Iraq rolling into a poster, a billboard, a mural of Saddam Hussein. You've seen these kinds of images over the last week. Allied troops doing away with pictures, paying tribute to the Iraqi dictator, a gesture that is meant to impress on the Iraqi people. This operation is about their liberation.
What about this weather? I mean, does that make it even more of a grind, or how's
it
that?
Makes it difficult because you can't see nothing. You try to pull security and you're just dead off. Can't see nothing. If you're sitting here going, guy could be 50 meters away from me and I don't know it. So.
And how do you feel about this mission that you guys got coming up in the next couple of days?
I mean, I'm ready for it. We're all ready for it because that's our job. But I mean, in my mind, it's a worry. But everybody here is here to protect everybody else. So we're going to do the whole thing. We're going to get it done.
British troops report destroying 14 Iraqi tanks in a fierce battle in the southern city of Basra. Residents have been fleeing the city. We've been seeing a lot of that all day. A northern Iraq airfield secured by U.S. Army paratroopers is becoming the launch pad for the coalition's march to Baghdad from the north. Planes are bringing in tanks, armored personnel carriers, troops, and artillery to Harrier Airfield.
Flying bat can carry all sorts of different types of munitions, but again, the B-2s striking downtown Baghdad last night.
Uprising is not going to take place. We will have to enter the city sooner or later, and then I'm afraid we're going to have to face the kind of fighting that the Pentagon has been trying to avoid, which is house to house.
But honestly, if we do have to go in house to house, don't you think we can handle it? Does it necessarily have to be as disastrous as some people are predicting it?
No, but it's going to be rather heavy in terms of casualties. I'm afraid that we will see street-to-street fighting, which will mean very heavy casualties.
For whatever reason, it's chosen not to complain about it, but it's really been interesting to watch the lack of attention being paid. Maybe they like it that way, but the work on a boat. They sleep on something about as big as this table. Many of the people, news people, have got tours of aircraft carrier. I know Laurie's been on an aircraft carrier. Right. And you see how small in the area they live, and when they're doing these kind of operations, right, they're working like they're getting 2 hours of sleep.
This is what's on the television screens in the cities across Iraq. The view, if you like, from the inside looking out at the coalition forces. These pictures, it's claimed, are in the southern suburbs of Basra. Baath Party militiamen chanting their support for President Saddam Hussein, Kalashnikovs held aloft. It's not possible to say when the scene was recorded. Women too, though, were joining in, armed with pistols and a large spoon. They were shown handing out cooked food to the defenders of Iraq's second city on the Shatt al-Arab, with a population of over 1.5 million. The newscaster broadcast reports of a statement by the Russian Foreign Minister Igor Ivanov calling the war illegal. In the car park of the Ministry of Information today, evidence of the targets hit by coalition strike jets in the Iraqi capital overnight, what remains of a mobile radio transmitter.
The British and American jets already have control of the air here. Now they're trying to seize control of the airwaves as well.
Patriotic songs and images are being broadcast throughout the day. The message the coalition forces may have expected to be welcomed with flowers and music, but for the moment, they're still being greeted with bullets. A long war is looming. David Chater, Sky News, Baghdad.
All right, well, some good news. We seem to have gotten our audio problem.
Part of the story in southern Iraq. The Marines from 40 Commando on the Al-Faw Peninsula are ready to fend off attacks from Saddam's most loyal and determined fighters. Winning territory is one thing here. Winning over an entire population, quite another. Emma Hurd, Sky News in southern Iraq.
Pentagon sources say the bombs were dropped from a B-2 stealth bomber. Coalition artillery fired overnight at Iraqi forces near Najaf. B-52 bombers also assaulted the Iraqi ranks, dropping numerous bombs on a convoy heading south. The firefight ended 3 days of intense fighting around the city by the Army's 7th Cavalry. Coalition forces continued their push against Basra. British troops engaged Iraqi tanks and mortar positions. The British say that 14 of the Iraqi tanks were destroyed. More than 1,000 Iraqis descended on a relief shipment near Basra in southern Iraq. British troops tried to keep order as the shipment of water was handed out, but they were unable to control that crowd. The truck and troops were forced to leave the village when the local militia began to fire on the crowd. The stepfather of a U.S. soldier accused of attacking other soldiers was arrested in Louisiana. Federal officials say that William Mohammed Bilal, who is a convicted felon, was found to have at least 5 guns in his home. He faces 10 years in prison for violating his parole.
Coalition forces close in on Baghdad. But the outcome is assured. The regime will be removed. The only thing that remains unclear is precisely how long.
People who would flee the fighting come here to live in UN-based tent cities. That hasn't happened. As of yesterday, there were 0 Iraqi refugees, people who had crossed over. So the UN has set up tent cities here in the desert, but they're just tarpaulins flapping in the wind. It's not clear exactly how accurate this is. Many of them may be going back to look for their families or to take care of their properties there. But at least 5,000 have gone back the other way. Many of them say they intend to fight. Lori?
Smart bombs? Right. These things are incredible. They not only find the target they're supposed to hit, they can actually knock on the front door, pretend to be the pizza delivery guy before they blow up.
Un segundo frente, una brigada de paracaidistas de la brigada 173 que estaba destacado en Italia y están buscando encircular con unidades a la ciudad, pero preparándose para una batalla que tengan que hacer entrando a la ciudad calle por calle del Fuerte Hood en Texas hacia Kuwait, y para fines de semana ya podemos ver las primeras unidades.
The combat arms, the tanks and the Bradleys and those sorts of things, they're escorted, obviously based on the threat level, they're escorted to a greater or lesser extent.
That the Iraqi army up till now has not confronted the United States forces. The Iraqi people, the women, the students, the peasants are now facing the American and UK forces in Iraq today.
There continue to be a number of targets connected with the leadership in downtown Baghdad that, at least as of this digital globe image taken yesterday morning, had not been hit, and we would expect to be hit over the next several days.
Hey, John, if they're so efficient, and they look pretty darn efficient, why are they so rarely used?